Okay, I want you to picture something with me. You're standing on a quiet cobblestone street in a town you never knew existed. The scent of fresh bread lingers in the air, the chatter of locals hums softly around you, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimes. You don't have a plan, no itinerary, no GPS, just the excitement of discovering something new. That's what today's episode is all about. Hidden gems. Those off the beaten path destinations that aren't in every guidebook, but leave you with the kind of memories you'll never forget.
Travel far and wide, let's take flight. See the world's wonders, day and night. From sandy beaches to mountain peaks, every adventure, a memory we keep.
Welcome to Talk Travel with Glen. I'm your host, Glen, and if you're someone who loves discovering the world's best kept secrets, then you've come to the right place. Today, we'll explore forgotten villages in Europe, breathtaking nature escapes, and underground food scenes that will change the way you travel. Let me take you to a place that feels like stepping into a time capsule. Albarracin, Spain, a village so enchanting that even Spaniards call it one of the most beautiful in the country. But here's the thing, most people don't go, and that's what makes it magical. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Have you ever stumbled upon a place so magical that you couldn't believe it wasn't world famous? Share your story with me on Instagram or send in a voice memo. I might feature it in a future episode. I remember the first time I arrived in Albarracin. It was late afternoon, and the entire town was bathed in a golden glow. The sun was sinking behind the surrounding cliffs, casting long shadows over the terracotta rooftops. I stepped out of my car, and immediately a hush fell over me. No honking cars, no tourist chatter, just the sound of a distant church bell and the occasional rustle of wind through the ancient streets. As I walked through the narrow alleyways, the cobblestones beneath my feet were uneven, worn down from centuries of footsteps. The walls of the houses were painted in deep shades of ochre and rose, giving the whole town a warm, dreamlike quality. Wooden balconies jutted out above me, draped in pot plants and red geraniums, their petals spilling over like tiny waterfalls of color. Then something struck me. I was completely alone. No crowds, no noise, just the echoes of history around me. It felt as if time had stood still here. In a world where even the smallest villages have become Instagram hotspots, Albarracin remained untouched, like a secret hidden in the folds of time. Albarracin isn't just a village, it's a medieval stronghold, perched on a rocky hill and wrapped in ancient walls that have guarded it for centuries. I made my way up a winding stone path, the air crisp with the scent of cypress trees. As I climbed, I spotted an old man sitting outside his home, hand-painting ceramics. He looked up, smiled, and nodded as if to say, "You found it, and welcome to our secret world." At the top of the town, the ruins of the old castle stood defiantly against the sky. I stepped up to the edge of the four buttress walls and looked down below me. The entire village unfolded like a postcard. Red rooftops, winding streets, and beyond them, the wild, untamed beauty of the surrounding hills. It was a view I knew I'd never forget. So, here's the thing about Albarracin during the day. A handful of visitors come and go. But at night, the town belongs to the dreamers. As the sun dipped behind the hills, the entire village transformed. The sky turned a dusky lavender, and one by one, the lanterns flickered to life, casting a warm glow against the old stone buildings. The streets were empty now, silent except for the distant hum of a guitar from a tiny tapas bar tucked into an alleyway. I found a small bench near the main square, sat down, and just let the moment sink in. The air was cool, and for the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. Pro tip: if you want the best photo of Albarracin, climb to the town's old watchtower at sunset. The panoramic view is unreal. Here's a secret hidden food gem. There's a tiny family-run restaurant just off the main plaza called El Molino del Gato. Take my word and trust me on this. Order the migas. It's a traditional Spanish dish made with garlic, chorizo, and breadcrumbs. It's rustic, comfort, to the soul type of food, hearty, and absolutely delicious. Albarracin isn't just a place you visit. It's a place that whispers to you, a place that reminds you that there's still magic left in the world of ours, but only if you know where to look for that majestic magic. Now, let's take a journey to a place so breathtaking it's hard to believe it's real. Imagine waking up to the sound of gentle waves lapping against a wooden dock, stepping out onto a balcony, and seeing mist rolling over a mirror-like lake surrounded by snow-capped peaks. That's Hallstatt, Austria, a village so picture-perfect it feels like stepping into a dream. I remember my first morning in Hallstatt. The air was crisp and smelled of pine trees and fresh bread from a nearby bakery. As I stepped outside, the lake stretched before me, so still that the wooden chalets along the shore were perfectly reflected in its surface, as if the whole village was floating. I stood there for a moment, completely mesmerized, feeling like I had just stepped into a postcard come to life. The houses here are straight out of a storybook, wooden balconies, overflowing with bright red and pink geraniums, steeply pitched roofs designed for heavy winter snowfall, and charming little pathways leading down to the water's edge. The entire village clings to the side of a mountain, giving it this magical, otherworldly feel. Hallstatt isn't just another scenic town. It's ancient, one of the oldest continuously inhabited villages in Europe, with a history that goes back over 7,000 years. It was once a major hub for salt mining, which is why you might hear it called the Pearl of Austria. Today, it's known for something else, renowned for being one of the most beautiful lakeside villages in the world. Most visitors come here for a quick day trip, snap a few photos, grab a coffee, and leave. But the real magic of Hallstatt, it happens at night. After the last tour bus leaves and the crowds disappear, the entire village slows down. The streetlights reflect in the lake like tiny golden stars, and the sound of the water gently hitting the shore is the only thing you hear. That's when you should take a boat out onto the lake. I rented a small wooden rowboat just before sunset. As I paddled out into the open water, the sky turned shades of pink, orange, and deep purple, the mountains casting long shadows across the water. In that moment, there was nothing, no noise, no distractions, just the sound of my oars dipping into the lake and the occasional call of a distant bird. It was pure serenity, the kind of experience that reminds you why you travel. Pro tip: bring a camera. The view from the lake at sunset is something you'll never forget. If you're into photography, Hallstatt's golden hour lighting is like a natural Instagram filter. Hallstatt has some amazing hidden corners that most people don't take the time to explore. If you want to experience Hallstatt in the most breathtaking way possible, here are a few must-see spots. Skywalk over Hallstatt, a glass platform that extends over the mountainside, giving you a bird's-eye view of the entire village and lake below. The hidden cemetery and bone chapel, a tiny church, holds a collection of hand-painted skulls. a centuries-old tradition unique to this region, the 7,000-year-old salt mines. Take a tour deep inside the oldest salt mine in the world and slide down wooden miner slides from centuries past. Yes, you heard that right. There's an ancient salt mine underneath Hallstatt, and the only way down is by sliding, like the miners did hundreds of years ago. Trust me, it's one of the most unique experiences you'll ever have. Of course, no trip to Austria is complete without indulging in some amazing food, and while Hallstatt may be small, it has some hidden culinary treasures. Must-try dish, Kaiserschmarrn. It is a fluffy, shredded pancake served with warm plum sauce. It was once a favorite dish of the Austrian emperor, hence the name Kaiser, emperor. Now let's talk about this dish that's as legendary as the village itself, Kaiserschmarrn. This is no ordinary pancake. Did you get the part about it's a light, fluffy, shredded pancake into bite-sized pieces, dusted with powdered sugar, and served with a warm plum or apple compote? So just make sure you understand what we are talking about here. It's sweet, slightly caramelized, and has a melt-in-your-mouth texture that makes it one of Austria's most beloved desserts. Yeah, it is all that and then some. Why is it called Kaiserschmarrn? I have to give you the full story behind the name. Kaiserschmarrn? The word actually comes from two German words, Kaiser, meaning emperor, and Schmarrn, which roughly translates to mess or scramble. So if you put that together, it means the emperor's mess. But why would a dish with such a fancy name be called a mess? Well, let me take you back to 19th century Austria to the time of Emperor Franz Joseph I. The story goes that Franz Joseph I, one of Austria's most beloved rulers, had a serious sweet tooth. His palace chefs would often create rich, decadent desserts just for him. One day, the royal chef attempted to make a delicate thin pancake similar to a French crepe, but something went wrong. Either the batter was too thick, or it stuck to the pan and tore apart. Instead of starting over, the chef decided to improvise. He shredded the pancake, caramelized the pieces with butter and sugar, and served it with a side of fruit compote. Now, normally, you'd think the emperor would be furious, but when he took a bite, he loved it. The light, fluffy texture, the crispy, caramelized edges, the burst of fruity sweetness, it was an instant hit. From that moment on, the messed up pancake became an imperial favorite, earning the name Kaiserschmarrn, or the Emperor's Mess. So, if you ever find yourself in Hallstatt, you have to try this dish. There's a tiny cafe right on the lakeside Café Der Bull that serves up one of the best Kaiserschmarrns I've ever had. Okay, let's go there. Close your eyes. Now, I want you to picture this. You're sitting at a wooden table. Your view is overlooking the lake, a cup of fresh Austrian coffee in front of you, and a steaming plate of warm, buttery Kaiserschmarrn, dusted with sugar, just waiting to be devoured. But first, let's really enjoy this moment. Now, I want you to imagine yourself sitting at this rustic wooden table. Let's take in the view of overlooking the lake, so still and serene that it feels like the world's biggest secret. I hope you can see it, but let me take you there with me. The air is crisp, cool, and fresh, so clean that each breath feels like it's clearing your mind and your soul. The faint scent of pine trees mixes with the aroma of the warm Kaiserschmarrn on your table and the freshly brewed coffee. Reach out and feel the table beneath your fingers. It's sturdy, solid, with a slightly rough texture. the kind of wood that carries decades of stories in its grains. You shift slightly in your chair, and it creaks softly under you. It's not uncomfortable, it's a simple, handcrafted wooden chair, smooth from years of use. You run your fingers along the edge of the table. It's cool to the touch, with tiny nicks and scratches, a history etched into its surface from countless moments just like this one. It feels as though it belongs here, part of the landscape, blending perfectly with the natural beauty around you. Ahead of you is the lake. Look at how still and quiet it is, almost like it's doing its best not to disturb you in this special moment. And maybe it feels your presence. You can feel its presence. It's calm, almost impossibly so, as if it's holding its breath along with you. The occasional soft lap of water against the shore reaches your ears gentle and rhythmic, like nature's heartbeat. Every now and then, a tiny ripple breaks the surface, as though the lake is stirring from a deep, peaceful slumber. And beyond that, you hear the faintest rustle of leaves in the breeze, high above in the trees. You can sense the grandeur of the mountains surrounding you. Their presence feels protective. Like ancient guardians of this tranquil place, the air here carries a unique weight, cool and light, but charged with the energy of centuries, as though these mountains have been watching over the lake forever. The sun is low in the sky, casting a warm glow that you can feel even with your eyes closed. It touches your skin gently, like a soft blanket, as if it's embracing this entire moment just for you. You'll hear life all around you, even in this stillness. Somewhere in the distance, there's the soft tinkling of cowbells as they echo from a far-off alpine meadow. A bird chirps briefly, its call cutting through the silence like a friendly greeting before disappearing again into the trees. Occasionally, you hear the faint clinking of glasses or soft laughter from nearby, perhaps another table tucked into the corner of the lakeside cafe. It's not loud, though. It's gentle, adding a layer of warmth to the serenity around you. As you sit there, everything around you feels perfectly balanced. The table beneath your hands, the cool breeze on your skin, the warmth of the sun, the sounds of life mingling with the quiet. You feel small, but not in a bad way. It's a humbling kind of smallness, a reminder that you're part of something much bigger, a world that has existed long before you and will continue long after you. And yet, in this moment, it feels like the lake, the mountains, and the sky are here just for you. It's a feeling of peace, of belonging, of timelessness. You lean back in your chair, taking a slow sip of your coffee. The warmth spreads through you as the breeze carries the faint scent of the lake and wildflowers again. You close your eyes for just a second, listening to the world around you. And in that moment, you feel truly, deeply alive, not because of anything loud or extraordinary, but because of the quiet, perfect beauty of simply being here. This is why. This is why we go and find these magical places and hope we can find this type of magical moment. These are the moments that makes life so wonderful. When, not if, you find these places and moments, remember to truly take the time to soak it all in. Take the moment with you and share it with others. It may help to highlight the importance of preservation of these type of places. Ready to discover your next great adventure? Welcome to Travel with Glen. Join me as I explore amazing destinations, share travel tips, and uncover hidden gems from around the globe. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Facebook to never miss an adventure. Plus, get exclusive content and exciting giveaways. Travel with Glen. Your journey starts here.
Travel far and wide, let's take flight. See the world's wonders, day and night.
Get a pen and write down Note to Self. Glen said the best place to try Kaiserschmarrn in Hallstatt is Café Derbel. This, my friends, will be by far one of the best. Traditional Austrian desserts with a view you not soon forget. And yes, I am expecting that thank you note from you later. Because if you like treats, like I do, and take your shoes off so your toes can dance while you are indulging in the moment. Need I say any more? Just in case, not all of you are with me 100% on this. Here is a fun fact. Some variations of Kaiserschmarrn are soaked in rum-soaked raisins, while others are made with a splash of Austrian schnapps for an extra little toe dancing kick. So, look at it this way the next time, or if and when you take a bite of this famous dish, remember you're eating like an emperor. Hallstatt is the kind of place that makes you want to slow down. Whether you're enjoying a warm pastry at a cafe, hiking up to a hidden viewpoint, or just watching the reflection of the mountains on the lake, every moment here feels like a scene from a dream. You know, sometimes we travel to see famous landmarks, to check things off a list, but places like Hallstatt, they remind us to just be, to sit by the water and watch the world slow down, to breathe in the crisp alpine air, to step back in time and appreciate the beauty of simplicity. That's why I tell people don't just visit Hallstatt, experience it, stay the night, take a boat ride at sunset, wander the streets when they're empty. Because this isn't just another destination, it's a place that stays with you long after you've left. Now, I'm not the only one obsessed with hidden gems. Joining me today is Andy, a local guide and an avid traveler who has spent years uncovering the world's best-kept secrets. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Glenn. I absolutely love this topic. Some of the best places I visited weren't even on my itinerary. They were places I stumbled upon by sheer luck, and those are the moments that stick with me the most.
So true. You know, that's the magic of travel, the unexpected surprises, right? Okay, let's kick things off with a tough question. What's the best hidden gem you've ever found?
Oh wow, you're starting with the hard ones, huh? Haha, okay. Let's see. Glenn, man, I have so many that are favorites that I really like and enjoy. But you said the best and not planned but found, right?
Yeah. Qualifier is, it was not your original destination.
Let me think. Okay, I'd have to say Meteora in Greece. Everyone flocks to Santorini and Mykonos, which are gorgeous in their own way, but Meteora? It's a completely different world. You've got these ancient monasteries perched on massive rock formations, like something straight out of a fantasy novel.
That sounds incredible. I've seen photos of those rock formations. They're otherworldly. What was the moment you knew this place was truly special?
I think it was during a sunrise hike. I was up before the sun, and as I reached a viewpoint, I turned a corner and saw the mist rolling through the valley. The monasteries were just floating above the clouds, like islands in the sky. It was so quiet you could hear the wind, the distant sound of birds and nothing else. It felt like stepping into another realm. I just stood there, completely in awe.
Wow. Dude, that gave me chills just hearing you describe it. I love the unexpected finds. But Andy, now that you have me and everyone wondering, I've got to ask, is there a story behind how you found Meteora in the first place? The investigator in me feels like there has to be a good story here and can't wait to hear the details.
Glenn, this is why I always tune into your show. You never let a good story get by you. I was not going to go into the details, but now that you ask. Oh yes, Sir Glenn, there's definitely a story, and it's one of those moments where I look back and think, how did I even survive that trip? So, here's what happened. I was backpacking through Greece on a ridiculously tight budget, you know, the kind where you're eating street food and praying your hostel has free breakfast. I'd heard about Meteora from this German couple I met in Athens. They told me it was a must-see and I thought, okay, why not? The problem was, I had no idea how to get there.
Hmm, okay. Yeah, here we go. We get the real story. What happened next?
So I did what any broke traveler would do. I googled it and realized the train ticket to Meteora was way out of my budget. But I was determined. So I got creative. I hopped on a bus heading vaguely in that direction. And when I say vaguely, I mean it. The bus driver didn't speak English, and my Greek was limited to hello and thank you. But I was convinced I could figure it out. Big mistake.
Hmm, I already know. It happens to the best of us. Let me guess you ended up nowhere near Meteora?
Exactly. I ended up in this tiny village about 50 kilometers away from where I was supposed to be. No trains, no buses, nothing. Just me, my backpack, and a lot of confused locals wondering why this sweaty guy was wandering around their town. But then, this older gentleman at a cafe overheard me asking for directions and decided to help. He didn't speak English, but he kept saying, "Taxi, taxi." Next thing I know, he's calling his nephew, who apparently owns the only car in the village, and they agree to drive me to Meteora for a small fee.
Oh, wait. You said 50 kilometers? That's like 30 plus miles, right? I can't wait to hear how small this fee was.
Yes, about 31 miles thereabout. Let's just say by the time I got to Meteora, I was down to my last 10 euros. But honestly, totally worth it. I mean, I may have had to survive on bread and water for the next 2 days, but I got there. And looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. That ride through the Greek countryside was its own adventure, and the driver's nephew even stopped at a tiny roadside chapel along the way, saying, "Good luck for journey." It was one of those moments where everything felt right, even in the chaos.
Andy, my friend, you are living proof that where there's a will, there's a way. I love it. And honestly, I think every traveler has a story like that where they've scraped together their last bit of cash to make a dream happen.
Absolutely. That's part of the fun, right? It's those moments of problem solving, of trusting strangers, that make the trip unforgettable. And hey, it makes for a good story later.
You're not wrong. Okay, Andy, back to Meteora. What's the best way to experience it once you're there? Any tips?
Absolutely. First, don't rush it. A lot of people visit as a day trip from Athens, but I'd recommend staying at least 2 nights in Kalambaka, the town at the base of Meteora. That way you can do both a sunrise and a sunset hike. Trust me, the lighting is magical during those times. Second, rent a bike or go on a guided hike. Driving is fine, but walking or cycling gives you a much more intimate connection to the landscape. And third, visit the monasteries early in the morning or late in the afternoon to avoid the crowds.
Those are great tips. I've heard the area has some pretty unique hiking trails. Do you have a favorite?
Oh, definitely. My favorite trail is the one that leads to the Holy Trinity Monastery. It's a bit more challenging, but the views along the way are phenomenal. You pass through ancient forests, rocky paths, and get these jaw-dropping views of the valley below. Plus, when you reach the top, you feel this deep sense of accomplishment, and the monastery itself is so serene.
It sounds like a spiritual experience, even if you're not religious. Speaking of spirituality, did you have any interesting encounters with the monks?
Yes, actually. One of the monks at the Varlam monastery spoke a little English, and we had this incredible conversation about their way of life. He told me about their daily routines, prayer, gardening, cooking, and how they've preserved these traditions for centuries. What struck me most was how peaceful he seemed. It really made me reflect on how chaotic modern life can be.
I love that. Sometimes, travel isn't just about seeing beautiful places, it's about those deeper connections and the things you learn along the way. So, Andy, let me ask you this. What's one thing you hope people take away from visiting a place like Meteora?
I hope they leave with a sense of wonder. Meteora reminds you of what humans are capable of when they're driven by purpose, whether it's faith, survival, or creativity. And I hope it inspires people to slow down, disconnect from technology, and just be present. That's the beauty of hidden gems. They force you to take a step back and appreciate the world in a way you might not otherwise.
That's beautifully said. Andy, before we wrap up, do you have any final tips or hidden gems you want to share with our listeners?
Let's see. Okay, here's one. If you're planning to visit Meteora in the winter, you might get lucky and see the rock formations dusted with snow. It's even more magical. Oh, And one more thing, there's a little family-run taverna in Kalambaka called Panelinion. Their moussaka, life-changing.
Ha ha ha. Yeah. Now I'm hungry. Andy, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for sharing your stories and tips with us. I think you've just added Meteora to a lot of bucket lists out there.
Thanks for having me, Glenn. And to everyone listening, never stop exploring. You never know what hidden gem is waiting for you just around the corner.
When we think of the world's most beautiful places, certain names always come up: Yosemite, Machu Picchu, the Grand Canyon, the Great Barrier Reef. And don't get me wrong, these places are breathtaking for a reason. But here's the thing, they're also packed with tourists. The viewpoints are crowded, the trails are busy, and sometimes it can feel like the magic gets a little lost in the shuffle. But what if I told you that some of the most stunning landscapes on Earth aren't in the guidebooks or on everyone's Instagram feed? What if I told you there are places just as awe-inspiring, if not more so, where you can experience nature in its purest, quietest form? Today, I want to take you off the beaten path and show you a few of these hidden wonders. Let's start with a place that feels like another planet. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this: a sea of sand dunes, so vast and unending that the horizon itself seems to blur into the golden expanse. These dunes aren't just hills of sand, they tower like mountains, some rising over 800 feet high, glowing in shades of gold, orange, and deep red as the setting sun casts its final rays. This is the Empty Quarter, or Rub al Khali, in Oman, the largest continuous sand desert in the world, stretching across Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Oman, and Yemen. When you stand here, you feel like you're at the edge of the earth. The silence is unlike anything you've ever experienced. It's profound, almost otherworldly. No traffic, no voices, no rustling leaves, just the gentle whisper of the wind moving through the dunes. It's the kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own heartbeat, your own breath. Time feels irrelevant here, as though the sands have been shifting endlessly for thousands of years, unaffected by the outside world. Take a step, and your foot sinks slightly into the warm, fine sand. The texture is soft, almost velvety, and it flows easily underfoot as you climb a dune. When you reach the top and look out, it's as if the desert stretches forever, an ocean of golden waves frozen in time. Now imagine camping here, right in the heart of this vast wilderness. As the sun dips below the horizon, the temperature drops and the air turns cool and crisp. The sky begins to darken, and one by one, stars start to appear, first just a few, then hundreds, then thousands. Out here, far from the light pollution of cities, the night sky comes alive in a way that's hard to describe. The Milky Way stretches above you like a luminous ribbon, every star crystal clear, twinkling in the deep, velvety blackness. You're sitting around a campfire, the warmth radiating against the cool night air. The scent of burning wood mixes with the faint aroma of cardamom and spices from a pot of freshly brewed Bedouin tea. The flames crackle softly, and the only other sounds are the distant calls of nocturnal animals and the occasional rustle of the wind. It's a moment of pure connection with nature, with history, and with yourself. But the Empty Quarter isn't just a landscape, it's a living, breathing piece of history. For centuries, this desert has been home to nomadic Bedouin tribes who've navigated its vastness with their camels, following ancient trade routes that once connected distant civilizations. Can you imagine crossing these dunes with no GPS, no maps, just the stars to guide you? That's how the Bedouins did it, and some still do. Their way of life is deeply tied to this land. They know the dunes like we know city streets, every curve, Every shadow tells them something about the wind, the weather, the direction they're heading, and their camels. These animals aren't just transportation, they're companions, lifelines, and symbols of survival in this harsh environment. If you visit, you can join the Bedouins for a camel trek. It's not just a ride, it's a journey into their world. Imagine swaying gently on the back of a camel as it moves rhythmically through the sand, the desert stretching endlessly around you. Your guide might tell you stories passed down through generations, stories of survival, of resilience, of a way of life that has endured for centuries despite the odds. What's truly remarkable about the empty quarter isn't just its breathtaking scenery, it's the way it makes you feel. Being in a place so vast, so untouched, has a profound effect. You become acutely aware of your own smallness, but it's not a daunting or overwhelming kind of smallness. Instead, it's humbling, a gentle reminder of how vast and enduring the world is, and how you're a part of something far greater than yourself, something ancient and timeless. The desert has a unique way of peeling back the layers of life, leaving only what's essential. Out here, there's no Wi-Fi, no buzzing notifications, no endless to-do lists, just you, the sand beneath your feet, the boundless sky above, and the stars that seem close enough to touch. In this simplicity, there's a rare clarity. You start to see what really matters, the beauty of the world around you, the warmth of human connection, and the profound peace that comes with being fully present in the moment. Now, if you're inspired to visit the empty quarter, and honestly, how could you not be? Here are a few tips. First, go with a local guide. This desert is vast and unforgiving, and having someone who knows the land is essential. They'll not only keep you safe, but also enrich your experience with their knowledge of the culture and history. Second, visit during the cooler months. November to February is the best time. Temperatures during the day are manageable, and the nights are cool and comfortable. And third, pack light, but smart. Sunscreen, a hat, and plenty of water are non-negotiables. And if you're camping, bring a camera with a good night mode. You're going to want to capture that incredible night sky. The empty quarter isn't a place you visit, it's a place you experience. It's not for everyone, and that's part of its charm. It's remote, it's challenging, and it forces you to step out of your comfort zone. But in return, it gives you something truly rare, a chance to connect with a landscape that feels eternal, to hear stories that have been told for generations, and to find a sense of peace that's hard to come by in our busy modern world. So, if you're looking for a place that will leave you speechless, a place that will make you feel alive, pack your bags and head to Oman. The empty quarter is waiting for you.
Travel far and wide, let's
Ready
take
to discover your
flight.
next great adventure?
See the world's
Welcome to Travel with Glen. Join me as I explore amazing destinations, share travel tips, and uncover hidden gems from around the globe. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Facebook to never miss an adventure. Plus, get exclusive content and exciting giveaways. Travel with Glen. Your journey starts here.
Travel far and wide, let's take flight. See the world's wonders, day and night.
Now, let's head to South America, where one of the continent's most jaw-dropping landscapes often gets overshadowed by its more famous neighbor, Machu Picchu. Everyone knows about the Incan citadel high in the Andes, but few people talk about what lies beyond it, one of the deepest canyons in the world. I'm talking about Colca Canyon in Peru. Did you know that Colca Canyon is actually twice as deep as the Grand Canyon? Yet, for some reason, it's still relatively unknown outside of Peru. The Colca Canyon is a land of contrasts. The first thing that hits you is the sheer scale of it. Towering cliffs rise dramatically on either side, their rugged faces carved by millennia of wind and water. Far below, the Colca River winds like a silver thread, glistening under the Andean sun. The air is crisp and fresh, carrying the earthy scent of the mountains, mixed with hints of salty sea breeze from the coast and fresh greenery from the jungle, the scent of flowers in the mountains, and sometimes a slightly musty aroma due to the climate and faint hint of eucalyptus, if it is the right time of year. And then there's the sky. Look up and you'll see something truly special, the Andean condor, one of the largest flying birds in the world. With wingspans reaching up to 10 feet, these birds glide effortlessly on the canyon's thermals, barely flapping their wings as they soar. Watching them drift silently through the air, you understand why they're considered sacred in Andean mythology. The Incas believed condors were messengers between the earthly world and the spirit world, carrying the souls of the departed to the heavens. And when you see one up close, it's easy to see why there's something almost mythical about them. But Colca Canyon isn't just about its breathtaking scenery. It's also home to some of Peru's most enduring cultural traditions. As you travel through the valley, you pass through small villages that seem untouched by time. Here, life moves to a different rhythm. Many of the locals still wear traditional Andean clothing, the women in brightly woven skirts and wide-brimmed hats, their long braids adorned with colorful ribbons. Farmers still tend their fields by hand, using ancient terracing techniques first developed by the Incas. You see children herding llamas along the dusty trails, their laughter carried by the wind. It's a reminder that there are still places in the world where life remains beautifully simple. One of the most fascinating things about the people here is their deep connection to the land. They don't just live in the canyon, they live with it. Generations have worked the same soil, grown the same crops, and honored the same traditions. And when you talk to them, you realize just how much history is woven into this place. If you visit, take the time to listen. Ask them about their stories, their festivals, their way of life. You'll walk away with something far more valuable than just a memory. You'll walk away with a deeper understanding of the world. So, if you're thinking of visiting Colca Canyon, here are a few experiences that will make your trip unforgettable. First, wake up before dawn and head to Cruz del Condor, the best spot to watch the condors take flight. There's something magical about standing at the canyon's edge as the first rays of sunlight break over the horizon, painting the cliffs in gold and copper tones while these magnificent birds rise into the sky. Next, take a hike through the canyon. There are trails for all levels, but if you're up for the challenge, do the full trek down to the oasis at the bottom of the canyon. It's a tough hike, descending over 3,000 feet, but once you reach the valley floor, you'll find a lush paradise of palm trees, waterfalls, and natural pools where you can cool off before making the climb back up. And after a long day of exploring, there's no better way to unwind than soaking in the natural hot springs scattered throughout the canyon. Picture this. You're sitting in a steaming thermal pool, surrounded by mountains, the cool Andean breeze on your face, and the distant sound of rushing water from the river below. It's the perfect balance of adventure and relaxation. Here's the thing about Colca Canyon. It's not just a place you visit, it's a place you feel. It's a place that reminds you of the vastness of nature, the depth of history, and the resilience of people who have lived in harmony with this land for centuries. It's not polished or commercialized like some of Peru's more famous landmarks, and that's what makes it special. It's raw, it's real, and it's waiting for those who are willing to step off the beaten path and discover something extraordinary. So, if you're looking for an experience that goes beyond the typical tourist trail, pack your hiking boots, embrace the adventure, and head to Colca Canyon. Trust me, you won't regret it. Next, let's travel to a place that feels like something out of a science fiction movie, the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia. This is one of the hottest, driest, and most extreme environments on the planet, and yet it's one of the most visually stunning landscapes on Earth. Imagine stepping onto a terrain where the ground itself seems to be alive, bubbling sulfur springs in neon shades of yellow and green. Vast salt flats that stretch endlessly to the horizon, and volcanoes that churn with glowing lava lakes lighting up the night sky with an eerie, otherworldly glow. It's a place so surreal that it feels like it belongs to another planet rather than Earth. The Danakil Depression sits at the northern end of the Great Rift Valley, where three tectonic plates are pulling away from each other. This geological movement creates constant volcanic activity, shaping a landscape that is both mesmerizing and unforgiving. It's one of the lowest places on Earth, more than 100 meters for those of us Americans. That is 328 feet below sea level, and temperatures here regularly soar above 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or in other words, 49 Celsius. Yeah, I can hear some of you out there thinking, what the hell? Well, I think this may be hell on earth, if there is such a place. If not, it has to be close to visiting there without actually going there. The heat is relentless, the air thick and dry, and yet life thrives in the most unexpected ways. The ground beneath your feet is crusty and cracked, tinged with vibrant colors from the minerals that seep through the earth, bright yellows, deep oranges, electric greens, and rust-colored reds. It's as if nature itself decided to paint an abstract masterpiece. Pools of acid bubble and hiss, releasing plumes of steam that rise into the air, creating an alien-like atmosphere that feels both beautiful and dangerous. And the salt plains? They stretch so far that standing in the middle of them feels like floating on an endless white ocean, shimmering under the harsh Ethiopian sun. But perhaps the most astonishing feature of the Danakil Depression is Erta Ale, one of the world's few continuously active lava lakes. Imagine hiking in complete darkness across a rugged volcanic landscape, guided only by the light of the moon and the occasional flicker of headlamps. Then, as you reach the summit, the horizon begins to glow an intense, fiery red. You take a few steps forward, and suddenly you're standing at the edge of a crater, looking down into the Earth's core. Molten lava churns and spits, its surface shifting like a living, breathing organism. The heat is so intense that you can feel it on your skin, even from a distance. It's mesmerizing, terrifying, and humbling all at once. There aren't many places on Earth where you can stare into the raw power of our planet in real time, watching as liquid rock rises from deep within and reshapes the landscape before your very eyes. It's an experience that stays with you and a reminder of just how alive and ever-changing our world truly is. But what makes the Danakil Depression even more fascinating isn't just its extreme beauty, it's the people who live here. The Afar people, an ancient nomadic group, have called this unforgiving land home for centuries. While most of us might struggle to last even a day in these harsh conditions, the Afar have adapted to life here with incredible resilience. One of their most remarkable traditions is salt mining. For generations, the Afar have extracted salt from the flats, cutting it into massive slabs by hand and loading them onto camels in long, winding caravans that travel for days across the desert. These caravans are like something out of a storybook, a slow-moving line of camels carrying what was once known as white gold, an essential trade commodity long before modern transportation. Watching them work is humbling. They move with an unshakable rhythm, slicing through thick layers of salt with simple tools, their skin glistening under the sun, their faces lined with wisdom and endurance. There's no machinery here, no shortcuts, just knowledge passed down through generations, a way of life that remains unchanged despite the passage of time. Visiting the Danakil Depression isn't your typical vacation. This isn't a place with luxury resorts or bustling tourist centers. It's remote, raw, and challenging. The air is thick with heat, the ground is unstable in places, and every step feels like an expedition into the unknown. But that's exactly what makes it so special. To stand here is to stand in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, to witness landscapes that defy logic, and to meet people whose strength and resilience are nothing short of inspiring. It's the kind of place that makes you question your own limits, that reminds you of the sheer power and unpredictability of nature. So, if you're the kind of traveler who craves adventure, who wants to step into a world that feels untouched, unearthly, and unforgettable, then the Danakil Depression is calling. Just be ready. This isn't a journey you take lightly. But for those who dare to venture here, the reward is a glimpse into one of the most extraordinary places on our planet. Let's take a turn now to Europe, where one of the continent's most spectacular landscapes often flies under the radar. I'm talking about the Lofoten Islands in Norway. If you've ever dreamed of visiting a place where dramatic mountains rise straight out of the sea, where fishing villages with red cabins dot the coastline, and where the northern lights dance across the winter sky, this is it. The Lofoten Islands are the kind of place that doesn't feel real until you see it with your own eyes. Imagine jagged peaks piercing the sky, their slopes dusted with snow, reflecting perfectly in the still waters below. The air is crisp and filled with the scent of salt and pine, and everywhere you look, the scenery is so cinematic that it feels like stepping into a painting. It's remote, it's wild, and yet there's a warmth here, a feeling that this isn't just a destination, it's a place that welcomes you with open arms. One of the most fascinating things about Lofoten is how extreme it is. Because of its location above the Arctic Circle, the islands experience some of the most dramatic seasonal changes on the planet. In the summer, the sun never fully sets. The midnight sun bathes the entire landscape in a soft golden glow, turning every hour into a perfect golden hour for photographers. The mountains, the fjords, the colorful fishing villages, they all take on this surreal, dreamlike quality that makes it impossible to take a bad photo. But in the winter, Lofoten transforms into something completely different. The temperature drops, the nights stretch long, and the entire world slows down. And then the magic happens. The sky erupts in color. The northern lights begin to dance, swirling in shades of green, pink, and purple, like brushstrokes on a canvas of deep midnight blue. It's a natural light show, unlike anything else in the world, and seeing it in person is nothing short of breathtaking. The Lofoten Islands aren't just about stunning scenery, they're an adventurer's paradise. If you love the outdoors, this is the place for you. You can kayak through crystal clear fjords, gliding past towering cliffs and hidden inlets where seabirds nest. You can hike trails that lead to some of the most jaw-dropping viewpoints in all of Europe, like the Rheinebringen hike, where you climb steep rocky steps to reach a summit that offers a panoramic view of the fjords below. And if you're really up for something unique, you can even go surfing, yes, surfing in the Arctic Circle. Lofoten has some of the best cold water surfing in the world, thanks to its powerful swells and surprisingly mild water temperatures thanks to the Gulf Stream. Imagine paddling out into the icy waves, surrounded by snow-capped peaks, the cold air stinging your skin while the adrenaline rush keeps you warm. It's a surreal experience, one that proves adventure knows no boundaries. But Lofoten isn't just about adventure, it's about a way of life that's been shaped by the sea for centuries. The heart of these islands is found in its tiny fishing villages, where wooden cabins painted in deep reds and yellows stand on stilts over the water. These cabins, known as roerbuer, were originally built for fishermen who came here during the cod season, but today they've been transformed into cozy accommodations for travelers looking to experience life on the edge of the Arctic. Fishing has been the backbone of Lofoten for over 1,000 years. If you visit in the winter, you'll see thousands of cod hanging on wooden racks, drying in the crisp Arctic air. This is how the famous stockfish is made a delicacy that's been traded across Europe since the Viking Age. And if you really want to experience local life, join a fishing boat for a day out at sea. Feel the wind on your face, hear the creak of the wooden deck beneath your feet. And if you're lucky, you might even reel in your own Arctic cod. The thing about Lofoten is that it's more than just a destination, it's a feeling. It's standing at the edge of a fjord, watching the reflections of the mountains ripple in the water. It's the warmth of a tiny cafe on a cold winter night, where the scent of fresh cinnamon buns and strong coffee fills the air. It's the quiet moment sitting on a dock, feet dangling over the edge, breathing in the Arctic air and feeling a deep, unshakable connection to the world around you. Not many places make you feel like this. Some destinations impress you, others entertain you. But Lofoten? Lofoten changes you. It's the kind of place that stays with you long after you leave, a place that makes you realize just how wild and beautiful the world can be. So, if you've ever dreamed of a place where mountains rise straight from the sea, where the sky glows with northern lights in winter and endless golden sunlight in summer, then pack your bags. Lofoten is waiting. What I love about these places, whether it's the Empty Quarter in Oman, the Kolka Canyon in Peru, the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia, or the Lofoten Islands in Norway, is that they're not just beautiful, they're wild, raw, and humbling. They remind us of the power and grandeur of nature, how small we are in the grand scheme of things, standing at the edge of a vast desert where the silence is absolute, or gazing into a canyon so deep it seems to swallow the sky. You can't help but feel a sense of awe. But it's not just about feeling small, it's about feeling connected, about realizing that we are part of something far greater than ourselves. These landscapes are more than just stunning views. They are storytellers. Every ripple in a sand dune, every jagged mountain peak, every bubbling sulfur spring has a story to tell of time, of transformation, of the forces that have shaped our world for millions of years. And when we step into these places, we become part of that story, even if only for a fleeting moment. So often, when we travel, we go where the crowds go. We follow the guidebooks, check off bucket list destinations, and snap photos of famous landmarks. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what if, just once, you took a different path? What if you chose the place that no one was talking about yet? What if you set out in search of the landscapes that required a little more effort to reach, a little more curiosity to discover? Think about it. How many people visit Machu Picchu but never hear about Kolka Canyon, a place twice as deep as the Grand Canyon, How many people chase the northern lights in Iceland but never witness the midnight sun casting golden light over the Lofoten Islands? How many dream of safaris in Africa but never step into the alien world of the Danakil Depression, where the earth itself seems alive? The truth is, the most extraordinary places are often the ones we have to work a little harder to find. They aren't the ones with souvenir shops and tour buses. They are the ones where you stand in silence, overwhelmed by the sheer beauty of the world, feeling like you've discovered something secret, something few have seen. And here's the thing. These landscapes aren't just beautiful to look at. They change you. They shift your perspective. In a world that moves so fast, that's always connected, always busy, these places offer something incredibly rare. The chance to disconnect, to be still, to listen. In the empty quarter, where the desert stretches endlessly in all directions, you learn what true silence sounds like. In the Danakil Depression, where lava churns and sulfur springs bubble, you witness the earth in its most primal state. In Colca Canyon, as an Andean condor glides effortlessly above the cliffs, you are reminded that nature moves at its own rhythm, unbothered by the rush of modern life. And in Lofoten, as the northern lights swirl above snow-capped peaks, you feel, perhaps for the first time, what it means to be truly present in a moment. These places make us feel something, whether it's wonder, humility, or a deep appreciation for the world we live in. And that's why they matter. So, if you're tired of the crowds at Yosemite or Machu Picchu, why not take a detour? Why not seek out the places that aren't as well known, but are just as extraordinary? Because sometimes the best experiences are the ones you have to look a little harder to find. Travel isn't just about seeing the world, it's about experiencing it, feeling it, and allowing it to change you. And some of the most powerful travel experiences don't happen in the places everyone talks about. They happen in the places you didn't expect to find, in the landscapes that take your breath away, not because they were on your itinerary, but because they spoke to something deep inside you. So, here's my challenge to you on your next trip. Step off the beaten path. Find a place that isn't on every travel blog, a place that makes you feel like an explorer, because those are the places that stay with you long after you've left. And that's a wrap on today's episode. If you've enjoyed this journey through the world's hidden gems, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an adventure. And if you found this episode inspiring, leave a like, drop a comment, and share it with a fellow traveler who's always looking for their next great escape. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. Have you ever stumbled upon a place so breathtaking, so unexpected, that it felt like your own little secret? Maybe a tucked-away village, an unmarked trail, or a restaurant that serves the best meal of your life? Message me on Instagram, tag me in your travel photos, or drop your story in the comments. I'd love to share your experiences in a future episode. Let's build a community of explorers, people who go beyond the tourist hotspots and dive into the unknown. Until next time, keep exploring, keep discovering, and keep chasing the magic of the hidden world around you. Safe travels, and I'll see you on the next adventure.
Travel far and wide, let's take flight. See the world's wonders, day and night. From sandy beaches to mountain peaks, every adventure a memory we keep. Join the journey, share the thrill,